Leadership isn't about what skin color you have. I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, 29, 68, 53, 8-year degree, 4-year degree. Do you get the job done on a timely manner, extremely urgent, and are you somebody that's anticipating a future crisis from taking place?
Patrick Bet-David from the PBD podcast went on Piers Morgan Uncensored and just had to put Piers Morgan in his place after Piers asked PBD just a ridiculous question about the California wildfire situation, about DEI. And like I said, Patrick Bet-David just had to put Piers Morgan in his place on his own show, Piers Morgan Uncensored. Let's get into this clip here where PBD shuts down Piers Morgan.
Because you have access to those resources, but unfortunately, he's just not using it.
You tweeted on January 9th, fire every one of these overpaid DEI hires ASAP. One was the LA Department of Water and Power CEO, Christina Crowley, the first LGBTQ fire chief, Christina Kepner, the first lesbian assistant chief, LAFD, Christine Larson, LAFD's first black lesbian equity bureau chief. Now, when you lay it out like that, it looks like DEI gone nuts. I have to say in her defense that Christina Crowley, I think, has actually performed quite well. I've been more impressed by her than I certainly have by Newsom or by Karen Bass. I mean, now you've had a few days to watch her. Would you agree with that? Or do you still think that these were all hires because of a mindset?
Well, when you get hired and then you say, I can't tell you what percentage it is for me to increase the DEI levels of hires of firefighters to be women because I think it's too low right now. You don't make any sense to me. That you lose credibility when you speak that language. The language of somebody you hire as an executive. And I've hired many where you're paying them a multi six-figure salary to solve a problem. I'm not expecting that person to come and tell me and say, I'm going to hire more white male than ever before. I'm going to hire more people from Jersey than ever before. I'm going to hire more female than ever before. An investor, a CEO is going to sit there and say, I'm sorry, I don't care where they're from. Just get somebody that can do the job the right way. Leadership isn't about what skin color you have. I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, 29, 68, 53, 8-year degree, 4-year degree. Do you get the job done on a timely manner, extremely urgent, and are you somebody that's anticipating a future crisis from taking place and you're getting ahead of it with 5, 10, 15 ways of looking at saying, if this happens, we're going to do this. If this happens, we're going to do this. We have this ready for this. We're using these resources for this. We're producing these cameras because out of the last 200 fires that were started, 68% of them were started here. So we're spending $800 million of putting camera in these areas to see the movements of the fire getting started, to be able to prompt and give us an alert. Give me some of those things as a problem solver. If you're doing that, I honestly don't care if you're straight, gay, lesbian. I have no interest in any of that stuff.
The problem with it, I honestly don't either. If you're doing your job properly, I don't care what you are. I just don't, especially in situations like this. If you're the best person for the job and you can save lives, you can save animals' lives, you can save these houses from getting burnt down, hire the best person. I don't give a shit what they are. But the problem is they use it as this this tool to brag about who they've hired, and they use it as a get out of jail free card where they're like, yeah, we might suck at our jobs, but hey, we hired the first lesbian fire chief or whatever the hell Piers Morgan was talking about. It's like it just doesn't matter. And to people like me, to people like Patrick Bet-David, it doesn't matter. To people that live in California, to people like Gavin Newsom, to people like in the woke cult, it's the only thing that matters. They would rather California burn to the ground, but for there to be not predominantly straight white men running the fire protection system, whatever it is, not just firefighters, but the people who, try and prevent the fires from happening and all that stuff. They'd rather it be not predominantly straight white men than for California to not burn down. Like, they genuinely, I believe that they would. And I think they would probably, if I asked them, they would say, no, of course not. Of course we wouldn't prefer that. But I think deep down, they do prefer that. And that's why they do it. That's why they hire these people who aren't the best at their job, but they are, whatever, certain skin colors, certain genders, certain sexual preferences, whatever the hell. They do that because deep down, they do prefer to have those things over actual safety of Los Angeles and of California. I think Patrick Bet-David's completely correct here.
But if we're hiring you and you're talking about you want to increase diversity, that's not your job. Your job is to protect the families in the state of California, in LA, minimize these fires. And quite frankly, they failed royally, Piers.
What's going to happen, Patty? I mean, you're the best person to ask about this, the insurance element of this. We know that insurance companies began removing cover for a lot of people before these fires because they said that their companies would simply not be viable if they didn't. We obviously know that after all this, two things are going to happen. One is that premiums are going to go through the roof for everyone who's got an existing fire policy. But secondly, I would imagine that the insurance companies in relation to fire cover in LA, they're all going to run a mile, aren't they? I mean, if they were already doing that before this, who's going to want to insure anyone against fire in Los Angeles? And even if they do, who can afford it?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. When we started, you said something at the beginning. You said California's preventing insurance companies from banning, canceling their insurance protection in the state of California. Fortune's article says California bans insurance cancellation in LA fire-affected areas. You don't get to determine that. That's not how business works. There's the right to represent customers that you want. You ever gone to a restaurant and it says, we have the right to refuse. We have the right to refuse. You have the right to refuse. Yeah, you could be offended by it, but you have the right to refuse. Let me give you an interesting story. I bought a boat here in Florida 4 years ago. My insurance company, Chubb, said you need to have a captain on it because you're not a captain. You've never had a boat before this size. I said, no
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
problem. One day my captain's not available. I decide to take the boat out myself. Would you like me to take a boat out where you're insuring, and if I crash it, would you like to protect that boat knowing a person who is not a qualified captain is willing to go out there? Would you like to put that risk on the captain itself, myself, without any insurance? Piers, what would you and I do with somebody like that?
Right. Obviously,
You wouldn't insure him.
Yeah.
So guess what happened 2 days later? I got a letter from Chubb with my picture on it saying, we noticed you posted this and there was no captain there.
Wow.
Because of that, we're dropping your insurance policy.
Wow.
And it was an Instagram video that they showed proof, and they were right. I lost my policy with Chubb. You know what happened when they did that? I wasn't offended by it. They're right. I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I've been in the insurance industry now for almost 25 years, and I'll never forget when my agents would come up to me with one of their relatives, and they would say, well, yes, this person's 280 pounds and 5'3", but everybody needs life insurance. Why wasn't AIG or whatever the company approving this person? I said, look, let's forget the company. Set aside the company's name. Let's flip it. Let's say you have $100 million that you're insuring people. Let's replace this person's name from being your aunt, and let's just name this client John Adams. If the profile of the person's health comes to you, height and weight, would you put $100 million of your money that you put as an insurance company, would you risk $1 million of it with this person saying they're healthy? Absolutely not. Why would you expect an insurance company to do that? That totally makes sense. We got everybody to be thinking about like underwriters. They're thinking like business people. Let's go to insurance today. Do you know 7% of loans in California are not being closed because when the homeowner, the person that's buying the house, when it comes to the end, and they're like, yeah, great, I like the loan amount, I can afford to pay for it. And then the premium for insurance comes, they're like, oh, I can't afford this.
Yeah.
Honey, we can't afford to pay this much. They're canceling it.
Yes,
Yeah, why the hell does anyone live in California? I don't get it. Like, everything that Patrick Bet-David's breaking down, I already knew it was a crappy place to live. And the other video that I posted today, I don't know if it'll be before this one or after this one, is also me shitting all over California. I don't know why anybody lives in California or New York. It doesn't make any sense to me. But what Patrick Bet-David's here is saying is making it even less appealing. Like, not only do you have really high crime rate, really high cost of living for housing and groceries and gas and all of that stuff, not only do you have horrible leadership, horrible culture if you're not extremely woke and a blue-haired, septum-piercing liberal, it's a horrible place to live. But then also, what PBD is saying here is another thing to really add on. A very big and important thing is that insurance costs have to be extremely high, especially after this, dude. Imagine being an insurance company and seeing all this happen, all these insured homes get burned down. Dude, insurance costs to live in California, especially in the areas that are close to this wildfire, are going to be so high. It's already extremely expensive to even live there without this inflated insurance that's going to come here. But also, you add on insurance on top of that, man. I don't know why anybody lives there. And like you add on to the, like if it was actually a place that was good to live, at least good, I'm not even saying great. If it was at least good to live there, you know, like it seemed pleasurable to live there, then I could say, okay, you know, if you're pretty rich, you know, you could live there. I don't see any problem with that. But because it's just a garbage place to live, on top of the extremely high cost of living, now what PBD is talking about with the insurance on top of that, I didn't even consider that. Why the hell would you live in California? Please, somebody let me know in the comments. I'm sure somebody watching this right now lives in California. Why the hell do you live in California? And don't give me this, oh, my job's in California or anything. Dude, just go get a job in a different spot. Even if it pays less, you're gonna get to pay way less in cost of living, and you get to not be around these idiot blue-haired septum-piercing people all the time. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys think about Passionate by David absolutely schooling Piers Morgan here on his own show for just a couple of silly questions coming from Piers Morgan, honestly. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this whole PBD versus Piers Morgan on Piers Morgan Uncensored situation.